Hi, I'm Neil Hollins, president of the Williamsburg Players. Normally this time of year, we'd be settling in together for another round of A Christmas Carol, our holiday tradition here at the James York Playhouse. This year, as we all know, is a little bit different. So instead of Scrooge and all of those wonderful Christmas ghosts and the Cratchit family and Mr. Fezziwig and the rest, we'll be spending a little bit of quiet time this year. But we didn't want to let the tradition die. This is a very important tradition to us, and Christmas Carol to us is not just a Christmas story, it's the Christmas story. When Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, his career wasn't going very well, and perhaps more importantly, Christmas wasn't doing very well. Very few people celebrated the holiday, and for those who did, it was mostly an excuse to get drunk. Dickens turned the holiday into something else, the holiday that we know and understand today. He wrote a story that was about the spirit of giving and finding redemption through family and friends and through holiday spirit. That's the way we know Christmas today, and that's the way we like to celebrate it here with the Williamsburg Players. Our theater is a little bit darker than usual. This is a ghost light. It's a tradition in the theater. We use the ghost light as a way to appease the theater ghosts. This year, instead of Christmas ghosts, we'll just have the ghost light. But we hope that all of you will remember through this production that we're sharing with you today as our Christmas gift, that Christmas is about the spirit of giving. And this is a year when a lot of people need you to give. We hope that as you enjoy this production, that you'll think about making some small gift to groups that are having a hard time right now. The arts are struggling as we try to get through this COVID year, and we could use your help. And lots of people are struggling too as they're out of work and can't necessarily provide the food or the toys or the other Christmas trimmings that they're used to providing. So as you watch this production, Our Gift to You, and see Brink Miller continue in his wonderful tradition of performing as Scrooge that's lasted for 3 decades now, we hope that you'll remember all the people who need things and provide your own spirit of giving as you share something back as we give to you. Well, as Tiny Tim would say, God bless us, everyone.
I have endeavored in this ghostly little story to raise the ghost of an idea which shall not put you out of humor with yourselves, with each other, with the season, or with me. May it haunt your houses pleasantly, and no one wish to exorcise it. Your faithful friend and servant, Charles Dickens, December 1843. Marley was dead to begin with. There was no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know of my own knowledge what there is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade. But I shall not be the one to upset a simile. Permit me to repeat, therefore, emphatically, that Marley was dead as a doornail. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing good can come of the story I am about to relate. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, administrator, assigned legatee, friend, and mourner. Though even Scrooge was not so dreadfully cut up by his passing, not so much as to miss one single business day at any rate. Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There it stood years afterward above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. The firm was known as Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes people new to the business called Scrooge, and sometimes Marley. He answered to both. It was all the same to him. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as flint. Secret, self-contained, and solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze his features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheeks, stiffened his gait, turned his eyes red and his thin lips blue, spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his office in the dog days and didn't thaw it 1 degree at Christmas. He associated with no one, and no one associated with him. Even the blind men's dogs appeared to know him, and when they saw him coming would tug their owners into doorways. He spoke to no one, and no one spoke to him. What did Scrooge care? It was the very thing he liked, to edge his way along the crowded paths of life, warning all human sympathy to keep its distance. Well, once upon a time, of all the good days of the year on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather, foggy withal. The city clocks had only just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. Scrooge's counting house was as gloomy and bleak as the weather outside. Indeed, there was little degree of difference. Scrooge kept a wary eye on his clock, Bob Cratchit. Well, Cratchit, what is it? Beg pardon, sir. I was wondering if I might add a lump of coal to the grate. It's getting a bit chilly in here. A lump of coal, is it? Certainly not. I don't have money to burn, Cratchit. And if you think your working conditions here are not satisfactory, if it's too chilly for your delicate fingers, Cratchit, I suggest you find yourself a warmer place of employment. Yes, sir, Mr. Scrooge, just as you say, sir. Yes, sir. And see you don't waste any more time for which I am paying. No, sir, Mr. Scrooge, no, sir. Then the door opened, and Scrooge's nephew, Fred, came in, calling out with a cheery, "Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" To which Scrooge responded, "Bah! Humbug! Christmas a humbug? You don't mean that, Uncle, I'm sure." "I do. Merry Christmas. What is Christmas to you but a time for paying bills without any money? Time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart, he should. Uncle, nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine." "Keep it? But you don't keep it." "Well, let me leave it alone then. Much good may it do you. Much good has it ever done you." And Fred replied, "There are many things from which I might have derived good by which I have not profited, I dare say, Christmas among the rest. But I know that I have always thought of Christmas time when it has come around as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. Why, it's the only time in the long calendar of the year when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me good and will do me good. And I say, God bless it." And Cratchit, caught up in the spirit of this speech, stood up and applauded. "Hurrah, hurrah!" Scrooge slammed his ruler on the desk. "Let me hear another sound from you, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your position." "Well, you're quite a powerful speaker, sir. I wonder you don't go into Parliament." "Don't be cross, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow. I'll see you in blazes first. You asking people to dine? I dare say you and your foolish wife have it enough for yourselves. But why be so obstinate, Uncle? Why? I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why can't we be friends? Good afternoon. I am sorry with all my heart to find you so resolute. We have never had a quarrel to which I have been a party. And I have made this call in homage to Christmas, and I shall keep my Christmas humor to the last. So, a Merry Christmas, Uncle. Good afternoon. And a Happy New Year. Good afternoon. And Fred departed, after saying Merry Christmas to Mr. Cratchit and getting in return a Merry Christmas, sir. and as Fred left the office, in bustled two well-dressed gentlemen and went up to Cratchit. Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have we the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley? Up there, sir, but it may not be a pleasure. Then the gentleman went around to Scrooge's office. Merry Christmas, Mr. Marley. Mr. Marley's been dead these 7 years. He died 7 years ago this very night. Oh, well, Mr. Scrooge, then. We've no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute among us, who suffer greatly at this time. Many thousands are in want of common necessaries. Hundreds of thousands are in want of, are there no prisons? Plenty of prisons. The union workhouses, are they still in operation? They are, sir, still. I wish I could say they were not. The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor then? Both very busy, sir. Oh, well, I'm very glad to hear it. I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. Well, under the impression that these scarcely furnish Christian cheer of mind of body to the multitudes, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is a time above all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for? Nothing. Oh, you wish to remain anonymous. I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I support the establishments I have just mentioned with my tax payments. Those who are badly off must go there. But many can't go there, and many more would rather die. If they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population. Good afternoon. Oh, good afternoon, sir. And the gentleman departed. And as they were going out, Scrooge heard some children singing outside his door. God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day. Scrooge, taking up the poker by his stove, went to the door and said, "What are you doing out there? Get out of here! Out! Out! Out!" And the children scurried away. At length the hour for closing up the counting house arrived. As Cratchit prepared to leave, Scrooge said to him, "And you'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose?" "If quite convenient, sir." "It is not convenient, and it's not fair. If I were to stop £0.50 for it, you think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound. Yet you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work?" "But it's only once a year, sir." "A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. Still, I suppose you must have the whole day." "Oh, thank you, sir, thank you." "Be here all the earlier next morning." "Oh, indeed I shall, sir, indeed I shall." "Thank you, sir, and good night, Mr. Scrooge." Yes. The office was closed in a twinkling, and the clerk, with the long ends of his white comforter dangling below his waist, for he boasted no greatcoat, went down a slide on Cornhill 20 times behind a lane of boys in honor of its being Christmas Eve, and then ran home to Camden Town as hard as he could pelt to play at blind man's buff. Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having beguiled the rest of the evening with his banker's book, went home to bed. Scrooge lived in a gloomy, lonely suite of rooms at the end of a dark, remote courtyard. The courtyard this night was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its every turn, had to grope his way. Fog and frost hung thick about the gateway of the old house. Now, it is a fact that there is nothing particular about the knocker on Scrooge's door, except that it was brass and very large. It is also a fact that Scrooge had seen it night and morning during his entire residence in that place, and also that Scrooge had as little of what is called fancy about him as any man in the city of London. Well then, let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that this night Scrooge saw not the brass knocker, but Jacob Marley's face. Oh! What is that? Well, it's gone. But it was there, I'll be bound it was. Jacob Marley's face. Ah! Imagination. Pooh! Pooh! Just imagination. And Scrooge went in the door. The sound of that old door closing resounded throughout the house like thunder. Every room above and every cask in the wine merchant's cellars below appeared to have a separate field of echoes all its own. Although Scrooge was not a man to be frightened by echoes, he did cautiously inspect the back of the door, as if he half expected to be terrified by the sight of Marley's pigtails sticking into the hall. But there was nothing there. So he said, "Humbug!" took off his cloak, went across the hall, and up the stairs and into his bedroom, trimming his candle as he went. Scrooge, satisfied that he'd only imagined he had seen Marley's face, nevertheless double-locked his bedroom door, took off his cravat and his coat, put on his dressing gown, and his nightcap, and went into the sitting room to settle himself before the fire, to take the gruel for the head cold that he had. Oh, it was a very low fire indeed, nothing on such a bitter night, and Scrooge was obliged to sit close to it and brood over it, before he could extract the least bit of warmth from such a handful of fuel. Suddenly, Scrooge heard a sound like chains dragging on the floor, and an eerie voice said, "Ebenezer Scrooge!" Oh, what was that? It's humbug. It's humbug still. And again, the sound of dragging chains, and the eerie voice, "Ebenezer Scrooge!" Suddenly there was a din of noise, crashing, bells chiming, chains rattling and dragging, and the voice said one more time, "Ebenezer Scrooge!" And Scrooge looked up in fear as a ghostly apparition, swathed all in chains, came gliding through the wall and into his bedroom. And Scrooge said, "Ah! What do you want of me?" "Much, Ebenezer Scrooge." "Well, who are you?" "Ask me who I was." Well, who were you then?" "In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley." "Jacob? Oh, can you sit down?" "I can." Well, do it." And he did. And the ghost said to Scrooge, "You don't believe in me." And Scrooge said, "I don't." "What evidence would you have of my reality beyond that of your own senses?" "I don't know." "Why do you doubt your senses?" Because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach causes them to cheat. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more of gravy than of grave about you, whatever you are. You're a humbug, that's what you are, a humbug." "Ah!" Marley lurched to his feet, rattling his chains and wailing, "Ah!" Scrooge fell to his knees, said, "Mercy, mercy, dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?" "Do you believe in me or not?" I must. But why do spirits walk the earth, and then why do they come to me? It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men, and travel far and wide. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander the world and witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth and turned to happiness. Oh! Again, Marley wailed and rattled his chains, and Scrooge said, Jacob, please don't do that. You are fettered. Tell me why. I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. I girded it on of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you? Cash boxes, ledgers, deeds, mortgages? Or would you know the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was as long and full and heavy as this 7 Christmas Eves ago, and you have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain. No, Jacob. Tell me more, Jacob, and speak comfort to me. I have none to give. It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge. I cannot stay, I cannot rest, I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never went beyond the confines of our counting house in life, and now weary journeys lie before me. You must have been very slow about it, Jacob. Slow? 7 years dead and traveling all the time? The whole time. No rest, no peace. Incessant torture of remorse. Oh, Jacob, don't do that. You were always a good man of business, Jacob. Business? Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, benevolence were all my business. Why did I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down, and never raised them to that blessed star which led a wise man to a poor abode? Were there no poor homes to which its light could have conducted me? Business? In life, I failed my business. I drove it to bankruptcy. Jacob, please hear me. My time is nearly gone. How it is that I appear before you in a shape that you can see I may not tell. I have sat invisible beside you many and many a day. I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and a hope of escaping my fate, a chance and a hope of my procuring Ebenezer Scrooge. You will be haunted by 3 spirits. Without their visit, you cannot hope to shun the path that I tread. Expect the first ghost tomorrow when the bell tolls 1. Expect the second on the next night at the same hour, and the third on the next night when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more, but look that, for your own sake, you remember what has passed between us. And as Marley's ghost floated out the window and into the air, Scrooge was sensible of confused noises in the air, incoherent sounds of lamentation and regret. The air was filled with phantoms, each one wearing chains like Marley's ghost. The misery was with them always, that they wished to interfere for good in human matters, but had lost the power forever. Scrooge, realizing that it was after 2 o'clock in the morning, and being exhausted, fell into bed without changing clothes and was instantly asleep. Suddenly, the clock struck 1 and Scrooge awoke. And he said, 1 o'clock? But that's not possible. It was after 2 when I went to bed. Now the clock is broken, an icicle must have got into the works. Suddenly, he saw the strangest figure in his room. It could have been a child, or perhaps an old man, wearing a long white tunic and hair white as if from age, and yet it had not a wrinkle on his face. And Scrooge said, Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me? I am. But who and what are you? I am the ghost of Christmas past. Long past? No, your past. Oh, well, may I inquire what it is you wish of me? Why, only your welfare. Come, take heed, rise and walk with me. Bear but the touch of my hand there, and you shall be upheld in more than this. And as the Spirit touched Scrooge's chest, they were transported through the wall to a country road at Christmas time. And there was snow upon the ground. And Scrooge said, why, I know this place. I was bred in this place. I was a boy here. And as they went on, Scrooge recognizing every gate and post and tree, until they came to a small market town in the distance, where they could see the church and the bridges and the winding stream. And horses, shaggy ponies, came riding towards them, with boys on their back, calling to one another. And Scrooge said, Ho! Robert! James! And the Spirit said, These are but shadows of things that have been. They have no consciousness of us. Why was Scrooge rejoiced beyond all measure? What was Christmas to him? Why was he happy to see these boys calling Merry Christmas to each other? Merry Christmas was nothing to Scrooge. It had never done him any good. And they went on. And as they came to a school, Scrooge said, I know this place. I was a boy here. I was in boarding school here. The school, not quite deserted, and a solitary boy, neglected by his friends and family, was left there still, as he had been on every Christmas. And Scrooge said, Poor boy, poor lonely boy. That was me. And yet as they watched, Scrooge's sister, little Fan, came to the school to take Scrooge home for Christmas, never to return to that boarding school again. And Scrooge said, she was quite a woman, quite a woman. And the Spirit said, she grew to be a woman and had, as I think, children. And Scrooge said, One child. True, your nephew, Fred. Yes, said Scrooge, Fred. And they went on, the Spirit conducting Scrooge to an old warehouse in London. And Scrooge said, Why, that's old Fezziwig's warehouse. I was apprenticed there. And they went inside and watched Mr. Fezziwig and his wife and their family sharing a joyous Christmas celebration with all the employees in the warehouse. They had dances and games and food and drink. And as the clock struck 11, this domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took their positions on either side of the door, greeting each of their guests and wishing them a Merry Christmas. And as they left, the Spirit said, A small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude. And Scrooge said, Small? Why, is it not? Old Fezziwig has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money. 2 or 3, perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves all this praise? And Scrooge said, It's not the money, Spirit. It was the happiness he brought us. Why, it was quite as great as if it had cost a fortune. What's the matter? Nothing particular. Something, I think. No. I should like to be able to have a word with my own clerk just now. That's all. And the Spirit said, And yet there is more for you to remember. And the Spirit conducted Scrooge to a garden where he saw himself. He was older now, and showing the first signs of the avarice and greed that was to dominate his life. Scrooge was in earnest conversation with a lovely young woman, Belle, his fiancée, and the love of his life. And Belle was saying, It matters very little to you, Ebenezer, very little. Another idol has taken my place. And if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve. What idol? Well, a golden one. Oh, Belle, this is the sheerest nonsense. Just because I work hard to try to get ahead in the world, to make a better life for us, or for you. You fear the world too much, Ebenezer. All of your other hopes and dreams have merged into the hope of getting ahead, of acquiring money and power. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one, until the master passion, gain, engrosses you. What then? Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I am not changed towards you, am I? Our contract is an old one, made when we were both poor and content to be so. We promised to share whatever life brought us together, to work together. But now you are changed. You shut me out and keep me at a distance. Oh, Belle, you're being childish. You cannot live in a romantic dream. I have always thought that love truly shared was the loveliest of romantic dreams. Oh, you have changed, Ebenezer. I was a boy, and I've grown up, and you must too. You see, even you say you've changed. I have not. And now that we both know it, I can release you. Release me? Have I ever sought release? In words, no. In what then? In this change that has come over you. Tell me, Ebenezer, were it not for our old love, the love we once shared together, would you seek me out and try to win me now? Scrooge looked away, said, Oh, Belle, this is the sheerest nonsense. She said, no. You think not? I know not now. And I release you, with all my love for the man you used to be. Goodbye, Ebenezer Scrooge. May you be happy in the life you have chosen. And Scrooge turned back to the spirit and said, Spirit, why do you delight to torture me? Spare me, I pray you. Remove me from this place and show me no more. The spirit said, One shadow more. Scrooge said, No, I don't wish to see it. Remove me from this place and show me no more. But the relentless ghost forced Scrooge to see what happened next. They were transported to a room, neither large nor handsome, but warm and comfortable. And Scrooge observed the happy, loving Christmas celebration of Belle and her husband and their children. And Scrooge, realizing the happiness that he had lost, turned to the spirit and said, Spirit, what have I done? What have I lost? Remove me from this place and show me no more. And the spirit said, I told you, these are the shadows of the things that have been, that they are what they are. Do not blame me. And Scrooge began to sob. No more, no more, no more. Scrooge was transported back to his bedroom, where again he fell into an exhausted sleep. The clock struck 1, and Scrooge awoke to find that he was indeed in his own bedroom, but not as he had ever seen it before. The walls were a living green, with holly and ivy and mistletoe and berries. There was a raging fire in the fireplace, such as that fireplace had never seen. And on the floor were roast turkeys and geese and great joints of meat and pies and cakes and puddings and all manner of delicious things on the floor. And sitting in the midst of it was a jolly giant, robed in green with white fringe and a holly wreath on his head. And Scrooge said, Are you the second spirit? And the giant said, I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. You have never seen the likes of me before. And Scrooge said, Never. And the ghost said, Well, then approach. Know me better. Know my time and my age, my sights and my sounds. And Scrooge said, Spirit, conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on compulsion, but learned a lesson that is working in me now. Tonight, if you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it. And the Spirit said, touch my robe. Scrooge did, and they were transported to a city street in London on Christmas Day, and people running to and fro, wishing each other a Merry Christmas, exchanging gifts, and Scrooge said, spin it. They all seemed so happy and full of good humor. Indeed, said the Spirit, it is Christmas, the happiest and best humored time of all the year. Is that so strange to you, Ebenezer Scrooge? Scrooge said, well, I'm ashamed to say that it is, or it has been for a long time past. And the Spirit said, well, this is the present, this Christmas now, Christmas present. Look, Ebenezer Scrooge. And Scrooge was transported to the house of his clerk, Bob Cratchit, where they observed the happy, loving, but very meager Christmas celebration of Bob Cratchit and his family. And it ended with a prayer from Tiny Tim, Bob Cratchit's youngest son, who bore a crutch and his legs were supported by an iron frame. And Tiny Tim said, God bless us, everyone. And Scrooge and the Spirit were then transported to Christmases of sailors on ships at sea, miners deep underground, people in almshouses and hospitals and prisons. And at every stop, they heard the quiet singing of Christmas carols and the telling of Christmas stories from long past. And at each stop, the Spirit sprinkled his Christmas cheer on all he passed. Finally, the Spirit conducted Scrooge to the house of his nephew, Fred, where Fred and Alice and all their friends were enjoying a joyous Christmas celebration with games and dancing and food and drink. Finally, the Spirit said, my time grows short, Ebenezer Scrooge. And Scrooge said, are spirits' lives so short then? My life upon this globe is very brief. It ends tonight. Tonight? Tonight at midnight. And while there is yet time, look, Ebenezer Scrooge. Look, man, lest you ever forget. And from beneath his robe appeared a boy and a girl, ragged, scowling, wolfish, yet frightened and prostrate in their humility. Where angels should have sat enthroned, devils lurked. And Scrooge said, Spirit, are they yours? They are man's, and they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware them both, Ebenezer Scrooge, but most of all beware this boy, for on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing be erased. And Scrooge said, but Spirit, have they no refuge, no resource? Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? Those who are badly off must go there. Those who would rather die, let them, and decrease the surplus population. Those are your very words, Ebenezer Scrooge. And Scrooge said, Spirit, no more, I beg you. I will do the things you have learned. I will. I promise. I promise. And as the Spirit gathered the children back to himself and disappeared, Scrooge heard the clock chiming. And as the last stroke of 12 ceased to vibrate, Scrooge remembered the prophecy of Jacob Marley, and raising his eyes, saw coming towards him a phantom, robed in black and hooded, moving as if through the mist. And Scrooge said, I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come. You are about to show me shadows of things that have not yet happened, but will happen. Is that so, Spirit? O ghost of the future, I fear you more than any spectre I have yet seen. But as I know that your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be a man other than what I was, I am prepared to bear you company, and do so with a grateful heart. Will you not speak to me, Spirit? Well, all right. Lead on, lead on. The night is waning fast and time is precious. Lead on. The spirit raised his hand and pointed to two men discussing the funeral and death of an acquaintance in very unflattering terms. And Scrooge said, Spirit, I know those men. Whose funeral were they talking about? Tell me, Spirit. And again the spirit pointed, this time to a filthy pawn shop in the worst part of London, where a dirty, evil old man was haggling with the undertaker's man, and a laundress and a charwoman over the sale of the dead man's things. And Scrooge said, Oh, Spirit, I see. This might be my own case. Oh, what a horrible thought. This is a fearful place, Spirit. May we leave it? I will not leave this lesson, I promise. Please, Spirit, let us go. And he said, Spirit, if there's any feeling of tenderness or compassion for a death, let me see it. Please, Spirit, show me tenderness, compassion. The spirit again pointed and directed Scrooge to the house of his clerk, Bob Cratchit, where the Cratchit family was in mourning over the death of little Tiny Tim. And Scrooge said, Spirit, it is too sad to think of little Tiny Tim gone. They all loved him so. Spirit, I have indeed seen tenderness and compassion. But let us go and leave these good people with their grief. And then Scrooge said, But Spirit, that pawn shop and those people who stole the dead man's things to sell there, well, it troubles me to think of that poor dead soul with no one to feel sorrow or sympathy. Tell me, Spirit, who was he? Where did he live? Tell me, Spirit. And the spirit transported Scrooge to a graveyard and pointed at a tombstone. Scrooge moved forward, looked at the tombstone, and said, Ebenezer Scrooge! No! Hear me, Spirit. I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been. Why do you show me these things if I am past all hope? Good Spirit, intercede for me. Say that I may yet change these shadows you have shown me. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, in the present, and the future, and the spirits of all three shall strive within me, and I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Please, Spirit, please, say I may yet sponge away the writing on this stone. Please, Spirit, one chance more, just one. Scrooge looked up and said, Why, what is this? It's my own bedroom. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and Christmas time be praised for this. I say it on my knees, old Jacob, on my knees. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. Oh, these shadows of things to come, they will be changed. I will change them, I will. I will live in the past, in the present, and the future, and the spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, but I don't know what to do. Oh my, I feel light as a feather. Oh, as happy as an angel, as merry as a schoolboy. And he bounced up and down on his bed and then sat down. Oh, as giddy as a drunken man. And then he got up. He walked to the window and he said, Merry Christmas. Oh, that felt good. A Merry Christmas to you all, and a Happy New Year to the whole world. Oh, it's all right. It's all true. It all happened. Oh, but I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. Oh, I don't know anything. Never mind. I don't care. Oh, Scrooge looked out the window and saw a young boy in the courtyard below. And he said, Hello, boy. Who, me, sir? Yes, my lad. What's today? Sir? What's today, my fine fellow? Today? Well, it's Christmas Day. It's Christmas Day? Well, then I haven't missed it. Why, the spirits have done it all in one night. Well, of course. They can do anything they like. Oh, hello, boy. Hello. Do you know the Poulterers in the next street but one at the corner? I should hope I did. Oh, my. An intelligent boy. A remarkable boy. Why, I think I'm going to like children. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, but the big one. What? The one as big as me? Oh, a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, me buck. Well, it's hanging there now, sir. Is it? Well, go and buy it. Who, sir? Me, sir? Yes, sir. You, sir. Here, take this money and go and buy it. Tell them to bring it here so that I may give them directions where to take it. Come back with the poulterer and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes and I'll give you half a crown. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he ran off. Scrooge said, look at him go. Look at him go. I'll send it round to Bob Cratchit. He shan't know who said it. What a capital joke. Why, that turkey is twice as big as Tiny Tim. Well, there's not a moment to lose. I'll wait for the boy in the courtyard. It's all true. It all happened. It's Christmas Day and I didn't miss it. Scrooge dressed quickly and hurried down to the street, where the people were running to and fro, wishing each other a Merry Christmas, shaking hands, exchanging gifts. And then Scrooge saw the 2 gentlemen who had come to his office the day before. Imagine their surprise when he ran up to them and wished them a Merry Christmas and asked them to come around to his office the next day for a sizable contribution. And then Scrooge saw the young boy pulling the poulterer as hard as he could. The poulterer was carrying the largest turkey anyone had ever seen. Scrooge gave the poulterer the address to Bob Cratchit's house, money for the turkey, and insisted that he have money for cab fare there and back, and something for a little tip. The poulterer said, oh, thank you, sir, thank you, and off he went. Scrooge turned to the boy and said, what did we agree on? Half a crown, sir. Indeed we did, and here you are, my boy, half a crown. The boy said, oh, thank you, sir, and God bless. Scrooge took the boy's face in his hands and said, God bless you, my boy. God bless you. And the boy ran off. And then Scrooge saw Fred coming down the street. Scrooge ran up to Fred and said, Merry Christmas, Fred, Merry Christmas. And in great surprise, Fred said, oh, Uncle, I was just on my way to ask you again to Christmas dinner. I hoped you would change your mind. And Scrooge said, Christmas dinner? Well, yes, of course I will. Well, come with me now and we'll be there in just a moment. So off they ran together. Scrooge's love of Christmas and his fellow man had only just begun. After seeing to it that the Cratchit family had a proper feast, Scrooge went off with his newfound family and had as much fun as if he'd been at old Fezziwig's. Fred and Alice and their guests were amazed at the sudden but welcome change that had occurred to him. And even after playing many games and dancing many a dance and exchanging gifts with everyone, Scrooge was still early at the office the next morning. Oh, but he was early there. If only he could get there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming in late. That was the one thing he had set his heart upon. And when Cratchit appeared, Scrooge said, Hello? What do you mean coming here at this hour of the day? And Cratchit said, Oh, I am very sorry, sir. I am behind my time. But it's only once a year. It shan't happen again, sir. I was making rather merry last night. And Scrooge said, Were you? Well, let me tell you something, my friend. I am not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I am going to raise your salary, Bob. Oh, Bob looked at him in surprise, as if he were out of his mind. The Scrooge said, "I'm going to double your salary. No, triple your salary. And a Merry Christmas to you, Bob. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you in many a year. We'll discuss your affairs this very afternoon, Bob, over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop. And the first order of business will be to find the finest doctors in all of London for Tiny Tim. Oh, sir. But first, go out and buy another scuttle of coal and make up the fires before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit. And a Merry Christmas to you, my boy. Merry Christmas." Scrooge did it all and more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he became a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, as good a man, as any man in the good old city, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that truly be said of us, and all of us. And as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, every one.